Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Chair Powell, last month there was research published in the Journal of Urban Health that found that more than half of Black women of reproductive age, that's the term they use, in the counties that I represent, that had experienced some sort of eviction during their lifetime. So that's like 50% of Black women in the two largest counties, Wayne County and Oakland County in Michigan. And these numbers are horrific. As you know, were you aware of that?
No, I was not.
And you know, evictions are often very traumatic experience, but also it creates a cycle of poverty, but also this instability for many families. But especially when it comes to a lot of our Black neighbors, the access to equity, the access to housing is diminished even more. In Michigan, we lost more Black home ownership than any other state in the country during the last recession. So we know the housing crisis, I believe, is structural, and some may say it's a policy choice. While there are many factors at play, and you know this, Chairman, high mortgage rates, the finance rates and so forth, that drag the supply of new housing. But last month, new housing hit a 5-year low. Are you familiar with that?
I'm not sure exactly what statistic you are referring to.
Okay, I don't know. There was all this articles about the housing market and the impact of tariffs and so forth, and they said, again, it hit a 5-year low. And again, I'm getting this from a source. But this sets the market up for higher inflation and more burdensome housing costs to years to come. So, Chairman Powell, you know, I'm looking at this monetary whatever policy framework that you guys have put together. Do you think that the way it's structured, and again, I'm trying to understand how you're looking at this in the housing crisis, do you believe it's eroding new rental supply under construction right now, leading to high inflation in future years?
So I think there are two things going on quickly. One is just there's a longer run shortage of housing in the United States, which there's nothing that the Fed can do about. That's not something we can affect. Well, there's also, if I may say, in the short run, rates are high, and that's going to weigh on housing activity. But the best thing we can do for the housing market, the absolute best thing, is to restore price stability so that rates come down and so that rates can be at a level that people can afford. But don't you think that the restrictive monetary policy,
the framework you all put together, undermines long-term price stability right now by reducing the supply?
No, I mean, I think it restores price stability. The point of higher raits is to—
So you don't think the higher rates is impacting future supply of housing?
So I think what that does is, I think interest-sensitive sectors like housing are very much directly affected when we cut rates or when we raise rates. That's right. But that's part of the mechanism for restoring general price stability.
So keeping the high interest rates does not impact future supply of housing?
It does not. You know, over the long—
I need to go back to talk to
over the long
women
run,
that the study
Fed will not be, our policy will not be a driver of longer run housing supply in the United States.
Okay, let me ask you, what is the difference? And honestly, confused. I want to learn here, and I'm sure people listening to this want to learn. What is the difference between demand-driven rent inflation and supply-driven rent inflation? Like you guys use these terminology. What is that? How do I communicate that to the public? What is the difference between supply-driven versus demand-driven rent?
You know, those are not terms that we use particularly often.
What's supply-driven formula?
That would mean that, you know, that there's not enough supply to meet demand, but at the same time, it also means there's more demand than there is supply.
So, are you guys ignoring that?
No, but as I said again, our policies will not affect in the long run. No, I'm being
either
serious,
demand or supply in housing. I'm being serious, y'all. We're talking about a housing crisis that is getting worse right now because we're not paying attention to future instability that the current rates, and you can raise your eyebrows and all this stuff behind. I don't know. I mean, do you understand? Like, I come from a community right now that I believe is now being impacted by the current framework that you're putting together, that I do feel like it's going to be long-term effects on the housing crisis, and you're ignoring it.
No, we're not, actually. We think the very best thing we can do is to fully restore price stability at the aggregate level. That will be the best thing for homeowners and for home builders and everybody else. That's in the long run, that is the single thing that Congress has assigned us to do.
But you see where I'm coming from. It is impacting future supply of housing, right?
Not in the long run, no.
Okay. Well,
Gentlewoman
Mr. Chair,
time has
thank you.
expired.